Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
That is me. That is me. Doing good, Stephen. Thank you for always asking. Not enough people ask you how you're doing, and it's always nice that people
Well, when you
are
don't leave the house and you're watching movies all day, how does anybody have a chance?
very true. You kind of have to keep yourself occupied, keep your mind
Do
occupied.
you
But
do you go do you walk by the mirror, stop and go back and say, "How are you doing?"
no, no,
Do
no.
you do,
I don't get Travis Bickle with it.
you don't get
Where he's
Travis
like,
Bickle
"You
with it?
talking to me? Are you
Oh, is
talking to
that
me?"
so you get angry at yourself?
No, oh, all the time. But that's
Do
that's
you
for other reasons.
do you have
That's
guns that you point at it as
oh
well?
God, no, no, I do not.
Okay.
But We are back here once again for another episode of Chasing Labels. This is episode number 82. This is the second of 2023. Still getting used to saying 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still in that 2022 mind. To be honest, my mind really hasn't left 2020,
Well,
and I'm pretty sure that's the case for
we're
most people.
I think like I mean, I don't know about you, but me, I'm still catching up on some films from 2022. So I'm still kind of in 2022 trying to watch a few of these films that are going to probably be Academy Award nominated. A lot of these
Indeed.
award season things.
Yeah, it's
Um,
that time of year where you're trying to play catch up with all the hot buzzy movies that are getting all the award recognition and people talking about
yeah.
it on the news and the internet and all that kind of stuff. But before we get into kind of our usual thing this week, we do have another guest coming in. And Stephen, who do we have?
Well, this week we have a fellow film enthusiast.
Hmm.
She has her own, she's got a fantastic YouTube channel. You have to go check out everything she's doing over there. Has great analysis videos. Just has a very she's got a really good mind for picking films apart and being very thoughtful, and that's stuff that we care about here at Chasing Labels, of course. And she's been a great supporter of ours since we started,
Yes.
and that is Celeste de la Cabra. Also, that's the name of their channel. So Celeste de la Cabra joining us today. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing
Hello.
well. How are you all?
Oh, fantastic.
Doing good.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Doing
good.
good.
Just great to have you here finally. We
It's great to be here.
yeah.
I'm very excited.
Well, we hope so. We hope so. God, it's been a long time coming. We
Yeah, I've
but
been
since go ahead. I'm
I've
sorry.
been like a fan of this since almost since you started. I haven't missed an episode in like 2 years or something ridiculous. So
I don't.
it's nice.
I hope we haven't filled your head up with too much crap.
I know.
A
lot.
like
Oh,
You've probably
well,
heard
that's
the same
that's
stories.
irrespective of this.
Yeah, you probably have heard the same stories over and over again.
yeah. God,
Maybe.
how many times has Celeste heard us say like the same opening where we're like, "Hey, welcome to Chasing Labels. How you doing?" Oh, it's like I was just here yesterday. Like the same.
I know. I feel like I was here
oh,
just
holy crap.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Look,
time does move very fast
Yeah,
because we're coming up on 2 years of kind of 2 calendar years of Chasing Labels.
Yeah.
Sometime this March, I think. I don't even know when our first episode really was.
It's next month. Next month, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, Stephen keeps
Nice.
track.
You got an
way better than I
anniversary
do.
coming up. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's very special. Are you guys gonna
Yeah.
like go out to dinner or something?
I
That would be
doubt
good.
it.
If he comes down to North Carolina, sure, we'll get it done. We'll go out to eat.
Yeah, you guys should
Yeah,
have a
if they-
nice
if they
anniversary
invent-
dinner. I think that would be good.
Maybe we could do a live stream, eat, and talk movies
Yeah,
together.
there you go.
Yeah. I
An
mean,
at
We
home
can bring some
anniversary
of our
celebration.
and bring some of you guys with us. Just
Well,
all of us sit around and eat. We're on the
I-
same time zone, so
yeah,
that,
I don't think it's like certain milestone episodes. I think we need to start thinking of like special things to do, like 100th episode, 150th
coming up.
episode. You know what I mean? That stuff's coming up relatively soon. It comes around sooner than you think.
Funny enough, that 100th episode is probably right around the time the 2-year anniversary is. So it's
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I didn't even think of
it's
that.
close.
That,
Kind of
It's
amazing
probably
how
a
that lines up.
little off, but it's probably close.
Yes,
Well, that tells me you haven't missed too many weeks. If we're talking about 52 weeks in a year, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and-
think we
yeah.
had maybe at the end of the year we missed 2 weeks, and then
Mhm.
I think there was maybe a couple times here and there that I think when we first started we
were doing
did
every
every
other
other
week.
week maybe.
Yeah. And then we realized that the information just comes much too fast, and there's too much of it to keep up with in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It would be double
But-
the episode length.
But let's stop. Let's stop
Yeah,
this.
stop it,
This
Steven.
is
Stop
this is about Celeste. Celeste is our guest this
I was
week.
just gonna
And-
pitch back. You missed my
yeah.
pitch. I'm just gonna say, well, we should probably concentrate on our guest Celeste and talk about her and all the things she does when it comes to YouTube and collecting and love of movies, the usual stuff.
Yeah, of
So
course.
Indeed.
let's
Let's do
hand it
this.
over back to her.
Yeah. So please, Celeste, tell us first of all, just a little bit in general about yourself, maybe some of your background and what got you into loving film.
Sure. Well, I think you have nailed a lot of it actually in your very gracious intro, which I very much appreciate. Um, but yeah, my name is Celeste de la Cabra. I use they and she pronouns, and I've been on YouTube since March. And I like to make thoughtful, in depth analysis videos on films, and I also like to discuss physical media. Um, Mostly as an excuse to talk about the films on the discs, but also because I do love collecting in and of itself, and I do really do love and support the. It almost feels like a mission, almost of film preservation and film access that I feel is becoming more and more tenuous with each passing day. So that's kind of maybe where my mentality comes from when why I lose all my money is because it feels like it's for a cause or something. But
Yeah.
I do think it is a worthy one, and I do appreciate what people like yourself do in promoting these releases and keeping us all in the know about them. And I try to do something similar and hopefully bridge the gap between just people who watch films casually and people who are really hardcore into it, and hopefully kind of encourage those more casual viewers to uh, see film as more of an art form and something to analyze and appreciate on a deeper level, as opposed to thinking of it more so as just entertainment or escapism or content, which is a word I'm really growing to hate as of late. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of the mission statement of the channel. And yeah, I do hope that your lovely audience will give the channel a try. I think we do pretty fun stuff over there, and we'd love to have you. So,
Yeah. The
and
one
I'm really
appearance.
excited to be here.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you, and my one appearance on your channel, which was a was an interesting a first attempt at a live stream,
Hmm.
and
It
it
was
was
my
fun.
very
I had a good,
first.
yeah, it was your very first live stream, and it was great. I had a good time, and Celeste channel. She's got an interesting way of talking about film, not just about her how she thinks, but like you have this very deadpan way of talking about things and your humor, and your girlfriend comes on a lot
Mhm. Yeah.
and talks with you and your friends. And I just
Hmm.
love that there's this like, you know, very personable way that you do your
Mm,
videos. You're
Hmm.
very tight in talking to the audience, and it's, I love it. And I think your mission statement is exactly what we're all trying to do here. A lot of us that are in the community together, like Ryan over at Disconnected,
Hmm. Yeah.
tons of other YouTubers and podcasters are doing a great job, and I think that it's great to. We're with you. We very much care about. We love collecting. It's part of our life. It's what we do all the time. But we also really care about spotlighting the films. Like it's
right.
important for us to do that so that we're not getting lost too much in the collecting part of it. Like it's
Hmm.
Yeah,
so
and I think we've always talked about how the not even necessarily the quality of the movie. I think one's enjoyment of the movie or liking the movie or having an affinity towards a movie does help when it comes to collecting habits. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
think that's kind of my first instinct is, hey, this is a movie I like. This is a movie I think is good. It's a movie I think is great, or maybe it's just a movie that may not actually be great, but I still love it anyway. So I want it in my collection. But
Hmm.
one of the videos, actually, now that you mentioned it, Stephen, one that I really like is when it was you and your friends at the Barnes and Noble Criterion sale,
Hmm.
because it
Yeah.
was a throwback really to I remember doing that exact same thing, going to Barnes and Noble with a bunch of friends, again, just going through the stuff in the store.
Yeah.
And it was very genuine, real type of video where it's like it's just nice to see people bonding over something.
Yeah,
positive.
that was a really fun one to do, and I'm hoping to. We kind of caught it at the very tail end of it because that was a crazy month with some illness and stuff like that. But we did manage to squeeze it in. But I'm really excited for Criterion season to come back around
Mm,
again, so we can kind of do a follow up. Because that was really just a very fun video to make.
right.
But we might do some more like thrifting out and about videos in the
Oh,
interim.
nice.
That's something I'd like to do, but I am also trying to like save some money, so
Mm,
it's a
true.
balance.
I would
But
say, yeah, don't ever feel pressured if you're
yeah,
out looking for movies to buy. It
yeah,
I like I always said, it's the hunt is the funnest part. I mean,
hmm
just looking and browsing and just maybe you'll find something, maybe you won't. That was always the most exciting thing for me.
hmm
Did you have any nervousness recording in public and stuff like that, especially in a store? I always get kind of nervous doing it because I think people are gonna look at me weird because I'm just sitting there like scrolling the shelves and I'm like,
yeah,
So what is he doing? Is he
yeah,
scanning the
yeah,
movies? Is he stealing the
am I
yeah.
movies?
stealing? I'm like, dude, they think I'm stealing, or do they think I'm
Are
like,
they?
I
Is he
don't know.
destroying all the movies with some magnet or something?
I don't know. What am I
Yeah, I don't
doing?
know. That's one of the reasons why it took me so long to do it. Like I just skipped July entirely. I was like, I had it in the back of my mind. I kind of want to do this, but I was like, that's a whole thing. I don't want to be that guy, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's so many people
and
do like
then,
the public vlogs, and it's just like I
yeah,
don't know how they have the nerve to do it.
it made me feel better having one of my partners be the cinematographer of sorts. And I was like, well, if anybody has a problem, they can take it up with them, and I can pretend
Yeah.
like I don't have anything to do
It's
with it,
nice.
you know.
There's
Uh,
safety in numbers.
and so I could just kind of focus on doing what I usually do and not have to worry about holding the camera and stuff. It ended up being pretty good. Nobody really was being weird about it, and none of the staff seemed to have a problem with us. So we had a good experience. Hopefully that holds up in the future. But yeah, I do appreciate your comments on the style of videos that I create because that is really what I'm trying to achieve. I do try to strike a balance between being thoughtful and analytical and also just being personable and entertaining so it's more approachable and actually fun to watch, you know? Um, and yeah, I just, I really put my heart and soul into the work that I do. And I see that from you guys as well, which is probably why I've been listening for so long and why I think we have a kind of connection here. Um, yeah, I just the fact that you put the time into actually watching all the films that are coming out and having intelligent and thoughtful things to say about them, like you're not just kind of like, it's fine, I guess, or like, oh, it was cool, you should buy it. Like you always have something interesting to say that gives me an idea as to what the film is about without too many spoilers or anything like that. Hi, Pluto. Hi, sweetie.
What did you think? What do you think about that? Do you have something to say about the
I know
movies?
they come right up to the microphone.
Yeah, she did. Come here, sweetie. It's okay.
But I appreciate that, and uh, I I sometimes am jealous of people like you and Andrew. I mean Andrew too. I mean, like I think it's just maybe my age, or maybe just I'm overwhelmed. But I wish I had more time to be even more thoughtful. But I don't feel like I'm always as thoughtful as I'd like to be because I'm just I got so much going on.
Mm,
But it's
Yeah,
it's
I
one of them
mean,
things. If I sit down and
yeah.
if I actually could focus on something long enough to really
Mhm.
think about it, for any like really think about stuff, like I'd love to do more like analytical videos and do like what
Mhm.
you're doing. But it's just like for us, I think
It's
for
a
me and
lot.
Andrew, it becomes we need a routine, and if
right.
Yeah.
it's hard to diverge from that routine because our lives, at least my life outside of this is hectic, so it's like
Yeah.
hard to focus. But
Also, I would
but
say,
I really love what I'm jealous. I'm almost not. I wouldn't say in a bad way, but I'm jealous of how much time is put in. And I'm like, I really love what you're doing. I just
hmm,
wish I
Thank
could
you.
do. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it takes you have to almost train your brain in a certain way to be
Mhm.
analytical. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you have to like almost turn a switch off, up or on. I guess on is a better word to kind of like get into analytical mode to kind of see through things, almost as if
Yeah.
you have like a secret
Exactly.
like superpower or something like that.
Mhm.
Because if you don't, you may miss things or whatnot, and sometimes you're just not in the moment to be analytical. You know what I mean? To
Mhm.
when you're watching a movie. And sometimes, maybe you haven't viewed a movie or a piece of art or whatever in an analytical way in such a long time. You almost have to retrain yourself. I
Yeah.
found it so much easier to be analytical, to be somewhat intelligent, I guess, or intellectual, when I was going to school on in a regular basis, because
Yeah.
they really kind of train your mind to be constantly analytical, constantly
Yeah.
thinking.
For sure.
And it was just a way that I went to school for so long that my mind was always thinking in analytical ways. And the fact that I'm also, you know, anxiety induced and overthinking every situation in life anyway, it just goes hand in hand. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like your mind is already kind of
It's
clicked into that way
definitely
anyway.
a skill that you have to learn and you have to
Yeah.
maintain. It's not. I mean, it's not as it's pretty labor intensive, honestly. Like there's so much thought that goes into it. It's kind of like, I mean, like you said, you kind of have to have like a switch that turns on. I've kind of always been this way, but especially now that I'm making like a thing out of it, it doesn't ever really turn off. Like I'm just always in that mode, and I'm always thinking about things. And I don't know. I don't want to end up sounding pretentious or something, but like,
No, it's not. It's
It
not.
makes sense.
I think the other skill, and this is the one I struggle with more than anything. I am pretty analytical. I mean, like my wife, like if I say something about a movie that me and my wife were watching, and I'm like, like I see something in the movie and I express it to her, she'll be like, "Man, what are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I mean, like, never mind. I'll be like, never mind. I'll just keep it to myself. But,
mhm.
like I think the thing that's a little bit harder for, at least for me, that it's actually, I think, one of the tougher things other than this is just collecting your thoughts enough to express it to other people in a way that people can understand it. Not
Yeah.
just you as yourself understanding it, but to be able to
Yeah.
being able to gather your thoughts
And
enough
express that to
to
other
express
people.
it back to people in
Yeah.
an articulate way is
Yeah.
not easy. That's
Yeah.
what's, I think, a skill, another skill that's harder
That's the
for me.
toughest part. That's the
Yeah.
toughest part is like you being able to ingest information and kind of compartmentalize it, analyze it for yourself and make it make sense to you is oftentimes much easier than trying to make it explainable to other people.
I have a hard time
Especially,
Mhm.
explaining myself to people, like the
yeah.
things I'm feeling and the things I'm, trying to say. Like I have a hard time getting it out always in like the best way. And
Yeah.
that turns into babble a lot of times.
That
Mm,
that articulation is certainly something that requires a lot of practice as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just I think writing papers all the time in high school and in university is just kind of trained me for that, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
Um,
does. They beat it into you pretty significantly in formal
yeah, I
education.
mean, it can definitely be overwhelming. Like with every film I watch, I think there's the level that we all kind of get used to approaching a film, which is just like, okay, what is happening in the story,
Yeah.
right? Like you want to be able to follow along with the story and figure out what's happening, dig deeper into character motivations, or try to guess ahead in terms of plot devices or twists and turns and stuff like that. There's that, but then there's the second level that is also kind of analyzing how the film is made on like a technical level or from the craft side of things. Like how is this being shot? What decisions are the director and the actors making that are on purpose, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the third level, which to me is the most interesting and the one I spend the most time on, which is the thematic level, which is like, what is this film trying to say? Like, what ideas are being explored and how are they being explored? And where does the film end up landing? Like what questions are being raised and which of those are being answered? And so it definitely can be overwhelming and difficult to be thinking on all three of those levels at all points throughout a film. And rewatches can certainly help with that because at least you got that part out of the way. Like you know what happens essentially, and you can kind
Yeah.
of really focus on the other parts. But I'm sure I was going somewhere with that.
No.
No,
You're
kind of
just saying,
Yeah.
explaining
thinking about the
the
articulation,
levels.
the process of watching a film and analyzing
Mhm.
it, and all that you have to
Oh,
do
oh,
to get there. Yeah.
yeah. What I was going to say, that third level is kind of, I feel my strength is in analyzing that part of it and what I get the most out of. Actually, honestly, following along with a plot is the hardest part for me. I think it's something to do with the way my brain works, where I struggle with that a bit, and so I always read the Wikipedia article after a film is done just to make sure that I understood it the way
I
other
do that
people did.
sometimes too. I do
Um,
that too. Yeah.
and I'll
Yeah.
read other people's takes on it or whatever. Um, but yeah, that I honestly do struggle with that part sometimes. So uh, it's just a different way of thinking about it, I guess.
Yeah. That's an interesting subject matter. I think just thinking about how we ingest films is a whole fun. I think we just had a little nice little talk about that, because that's everybody watches films differently, and we talk about how people, like you said earlier today, how people kind of are watching films more as entertainment more now than ever, and not so much as an art form. Which is something that we
And then
kind of
people get
Yeah.
mad at different people for their interpretations or
Yeah,
their
that's
thoughts on
something
movies.
I don't know. I think that this way of thinking about films is certainly it's a learning curve, I think, but it could also be a lot less frustrating, because I remember as a younger person watching films, I would be upset that the plot didn't go the way that I thought it should or that I wanted it to, or like I just like that was a bad ending or whatever, because I'm
Yeah.
following it so literally. But then when you kind of take a step back and think about like what the text of the film is trying to tell you with these events and what themes are being explored, I think you can find a lot more richness and a lot more interesting angles to look at it than simply character A didn't end up with character B or something,
Yeah.
And I think that that's actually taken a lot of pressure off of some of the ways that I used to look at films, because I wanted them to go a specific way, because that's where I felt it was taking me emotionally, and then it didn't end up happening exactly that way, and then you end up disappointed. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make sense.
When you don't let yourself get lost in the movie and let the movie guide you, and then you use expectations, that's I think one of the biggest hurdles for films these days, and it's really the studios that are making this difficult, because they hype up everything that comes out with 5 different trailers, all these ads. They create expectation, and then when you go to the movies, you have something in your mind of what you're going to get, and a lot of times it's not exactly that thing. So it's
marketing manipulation, trailers that show you scenes that aren't in the movie. That still happens today. I mean, it happens all the time. And a lot of that is due to the fact that the trailers are made separate from the studio. Like they hire like a third party company to kind of cut those things together, the trailer park companies. And so like they just kind of give them footage and like, here, put this together. They don't really know what the final cut of the movie is going to be. Oftentimes we hear like there are some directors who up until the day before the premiere, night before the premiere, they're still working on like final cut of the movie. That happens so often we don't even realize it. So, things change all the time. Then we hear of alternate endings, director's cuts, extended cuts, unrated cuts. I mean, I felt like that was such a thing of the 2000s when it came to the DVDs and things
that was just Ridley Scott, man.
Oh, probably was.
Every Ridley
how many
Scott
times
movie.
is he going to recut Alexander? I think he recut that movie like 4 times. I think there's like 4 different cuts of that movie. He did the same thing with Blade Runner. There's like 5 cuts of that movie.
Yeah, and then that one's extensive for sure.
It's like always tinkering, and I
will say Kingdom of Heaven director's cut's better.
Yeah,
I'll give him that one.
It's a hell of
an longer epic. And it's better. It's better.
Yeah, it is a heck of an epic. Not a lot of people talk about that Kingdom of Heaven.
It's one of his good ones.
I haven't, and I haven't watched it yet.
It's long. I would say
popcorn. It's one of his. It's definitely it's definitely
like
one of his better
long.
ones.
Yeah.
Well, Ridley Scott is not a man of minimalism or
he's not
stating what he's trying to do. He definitely goes for it, I guess.
He does. And if this makes you watch the movie any quicker, I will tell you that a character gets a arrow through the testicle. If that tells you, that gets you going, with watching the movie, then I'll just there you go.
That is now the singular thing that I know about it, and now I have a certain set expectation that I feel needs to be met.
I'm sorry if
the bar's pretty high at this point.
If I just fucked up your view of this movie, like one of these trailers we were just talking about, I'm sorry, but
as long as you're not lying to me, as long as that happens,
I'm not.
I haven't seen.
I will be that part of the curiosity will be satiated, and then the rest is just gravy, really.
It's just gravy on top of.
Now, I'm not saying you see arrow go through a testicle. I'm just saying we know that it happens.
Okay.
So
all right, now you're not selling it.
Yeah. I fucked up. Just forget I said that. You see it. It happens. Just go watch Kingdom of Heaven.
Go watch Kingdom of Heaven. Ridley Scott, come on our podcast.
I'll set aside a cool 4 hours and check it out.
Yeah, cool. Cool day.
Set aside a half a day. Let's go for it.
Sure.
Speaking of which, I guess we're getting into the whole collecting thing. When did collecting become kind of the biggest part of, or a bigger part of your life?
Mm-hmm. The sickness that it has become, the
You
disease
got it. You got the fever.
I'm now afflicted with. So physical media has kind of. I'm pretty young, but I'm not so young that I don't remember VHS and stuff like that. We grew up with VHS tapes in the house and stuff, and I remember the first time. I think the earliest memory I have related to physical media is when Finding Nemo came out, and we watched it in the theater, and I was very, very young, and I just loved it so much. And then I remember my dad driving us to Blockbuster a few months later, something like that. And he bought the DVD, and I was just like, what? You just have it now? We could just watch it whatever we want? And he's like, yeah.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny?
Oh my God.
You know what's funny? That's my first DVD.
Really?
It's Finding Nemo. Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I mean, we had the like Netflix rental service, and I remember when Netflix was kind of like a budding streaming service with a much worse user interface and everything, but it was there and it was nice. But that was like I always felt was the secondary thing, and then there was a moment when it flipped, probably when they started their original programming, I would think, when like House of Cards came out, and that was like a whole thing. And so that's kind of what it was, kind of always a mix of those two things as I went through high school and then college. But I don't know, I never went through this phase that I've heard people describe where they're like, oh, streaming is like, that's the shit now. I'm done with all my physical media. And then they come back to it. It was always like, well, I mean, that's nice, but if I really like something, I want to have it, And I've always had the mentality of supporting artists directly. It's kind of, I guess, where I come from in like underground music and everything like that. Like you always try to help out the bands by buying a shirt or something. So I kind of extend that philosophy to any kind of art. I always want to support it directly. And so, I'd always pick up a few DVDs here and there, and then it'd be when the pandemic hit. I'm sure this is not a unique story or anything like that, but it was just like, I used to go to shows all the time, like 2-3 times a week. And then all of a sudden I couldn't do that. And I was like, literally, what do I even do with my time anymore? Like I have all this time and money and I don't know what to do with it. And so I kind of got into it, I guess gradually or pretty quickly. I don't know. It caught on pretty quick. I'm not going to lie to you. And then
that's what happened.
It just kind of went off from there. And I guess we're here now.
Yeah. And now I don't have room for anything else in my room.
It's a blur. It really is. It just kind of like one day you've got all this shelf space, and then the next you have none.
I was gonna say one day you don't have any shelves, and then suddenly you've had to buy 5 shelves because you need to have shelves.
Next thing you know, your whole couch is filled up with movies, and it's like, how did we get here? I mean, then here we are.
Next thing you know, you're on an episode of Hoarders.
Or an episode of Chasing Labels, talking about
hoarding movies.
That's just the specific version of Hoarders, really.
Yeah. I was
looking at an older picture. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was looking at an older picture from like one of my first like Arrow Video online hauls or whatever, and I was so excited about it, and I posted a picture, and I was like, oh my God, I used to have that. Like, it was a bookshelf. It wasn't even like, they wouldn't even fit right. It was just like this tiny amount of space that they would occupy, and I didn't even fill that one up. And then I look at, I have a room tour on my channel. You can see the absolute chaos. I'm just like, what happened? And then I'm like, oh, that's why I don't have any money. It's because that's where it all went.
Yeah. Sometimes I look at the shelf and I just wonder how many goddamn thousands of dollars I've spent.
Oh yeah.
It's all on the shelf.
It's gotten to the point where I've looked, have you ever, this is like way off track, Steve.
It becomes shameful.
You're going to have to reel me in. Have you ever worried about something happening to your collection?
Oh yeah.
Flood,
all the time.
Fire, stealing. I worry about that like every day. like whether that's going to happen, or like any type of damage whatsoever. And I'm like, how I couldn't even fathom having to replace things in my head because
That'd
that's
be
the thing with some of the collector's editions that we buy and that we talk about. They're limited. Once they're gone, they become really expensive and sometimes impossible to find. So they're not like these things are replaceable. You know, it's not like kind of like mainstream stuff where you can buy it on Amazon pretty easy and replace it for $10 or whatever the case may be. Some of these sets that are like $50 now are going to be $200-$300 very soon. And you
yeah,
know, so
maybe
it's not.
it's time
That's
to
the
take
one
out an
bad thing.
insurance policy or something.
Yeah, that's the one
Because
thing
I
it's
with
don't
like
know.
collectors.
honestly, at a certain point, it's like comparable to a pretty sizable asset that you would also insure. You know?
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, the thing is, though, as I wonder how much insurance takes into effect the limitedness of something. They might just
Yeah, I
take
don't
in,
know.
they might just take in the value of how much you paid for it initially. But
They
when
do
it's
start.
once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, it's
Mhm.
didn't matter if they give you money for something or not. You can't get it.
Oh, and I know collectors specifically who have taken out insurance policies on their
That's
collections.
crazy. That's crazy.
Just because, you know, like we just said, what if something happens? How do you
I don't think it's a
replace that?
terrible idea, honestly.
I didn't know
don't
that
know.
you could do that. I didn't know, like, is there like a specific like movie
No,
collection
there's
policy I can
you
buy?
can get
I think
insurance.
it's like just it's just like a valuables thing that you
Yeah,
could do
yeah,
for like jewelry or instruments or something like that. You
Oh,
know?
gotcha.
yeah. You can go through your insurance company and get like a a certain type of insurance, like Celeste said, for your valuables, like and you just
Yeah.
take inventory and you send it to your insurance. Yeah, it's a thing, but it's I don't know.
I don't know. I
That's
just find that's part
that's a
of
little bit
collecting.
much.
That's a
I
little
don't know.
that's something that it is something to
If
think
my
about.
if my collection, if there was a storm that came or something, my collection got swiped up, I guess it was meant to be. Pick the best house I could.
I don't
There's
know. I'm sort of thinking that too. I'm like, maybe that'd be for the best. I'll be finally free.
yeah, maybe you know that you know what, I've thought the same thing. Like you know what, if it happens, I guess it was just fucking time,
Mm,
because this stuff ties you down
Oh,
and you love it
yeah.
so much, and it's like if it ever just goes away, it's like I just have to be like, I ain't starting over again. That's
I'll
it.
pick up a
I'm
new
done.
obsession, I guess. I don't know.
man,
I'll just
I'm lying to myself. I would just start replacing everything,
I
and
know.
it would take how long it takes. I don't know.
I don't know.
Or
I
I
don't
could
think
just
I
start a new
could.
one. I don't know.
I'd probably start a new one if anything. I couldn't replace everything.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I don't like those hypothetical questions. It's kind of like, hey, if your house was on fire, what would be the valuable things you would, take if you had 5 minutes to grab random things? And I'm like, I don't want to think about that.
grabbing that damn Gamma set that you love so much that
Oh,
you wish you'd
no,
have got.
please.
I'll grab that
Celeste
top
ever heard
shelf
my
up there.
Gamera story?
What's that?
I don't know if Celeste has ever heard my Gamera story.
Well, if
Yeah,
she's listened to
yeah.
every episode, she's
Mhm.
probably heard it 5 times.
Yeah, probably. That complete collection set is one of my biggest like
Yeah, I know.
misses. When it
We
comes to
all have
collecting,
one.
we all
We all have our
one.
white
The
whale.
one that got away.
One
Yeah.
that got
Mine
away.
is the second sight limited edition of Lake Bungo. I've not been able to find that for a reasonable
Hey,
price. Just
I will
throwing
get-
that out there.
Hey, well, you're throwing it out there, and I'll say this: I would be willing to sell it to you.
Are you serious? Really?
He
For real?
has it.
Yeah, I'll
I
sell it to
remember
you.
when he pre-ordered that.
Did you not like it? Do you not need it?
It's
What's going
okay.
on there?
I liked it okay. Like I didn't
Really?
did not like it, but I liked it okay. But it's one
Oh
that
my
I'd be
God.
willing to part with if you really want it.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Well, this
just took a
appearance
turn.
has already
It's
just
just
been
took a
worth it,
turn.
and then some. That's insane. That
Let's
film
just
really
stop the podcast now.
Yeah,
was
stop it
something
now. We
else
gotta
to
talk
me.
about business. We have
It's like
business
I think
things
it's the scariest film I've ever seen, and
Oh.
it really affected me on a very deep level. Like I had like a physical reaction to some parts of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
But yeah,
I'm all
I'd
giddy now.
be
I have
it's
to
one
calm
I'd be
down.
willing to part with. I mean, if you want it, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Steven's very. Yeah, Steven,
What
you're
am I?
very.
What am I?
I don't know. You're more willing to
He's
part
a
with things
saint.
easier than me. Like I want,
Eh.
like once I have something, I don't even want friends to borrow it.
I'm kind of
That's how
like
big
that
of a
too.
thing I am.
But you know what? Since I've been a Vinegar Syndrome subscriber, I've just been like, there are some titles in that I thought were okay, and I'm glad that I watched it and experienced
Yeah.
it and everything. But I'm like, let's be real for a second. Like these things hold their value pretty good, and I could
Yeah.
get a good amount of money for it right now. let's be honest. Do I really need this? And I'm like,
Exactly.
no.
Yeah.
I'm getting better about parting with stuff, and
Yeah.
really,
You have to eventually. I think I am too. Like I'm starting to, like I'm pulling out DVDs. I'm keeping some, but like for the most part, I'm getting rid of a lot of DVDs that I just haven't gotten around to replacing, or maybe I don't hold the movies that high anymore. I'm just like, I'm gonna donate them to the library.
yeah.
And you know, some of these I'm thinking about looking through the Blu-rays, but for now I probably just part with the DVDs, part with some of the TV show collections I have that I'm like, I really don't need to have this big humongous set of like Laverne and Shirley. Like I really don't have to have that. Not that I don't like it. It's just I got to make room for other
I got you.
things. You
I
know?
got
It's
you.
just a
You
reality
do
of
have other
limited space, you know.
limited space, other priorities.
Well, but the thing is, there's good new stuff coming out all the time, and I gotta make space somewhere, and just that's what you got to do. Sometimes is eventually you get to a point where you have to be realistic, and you have to be like, what do I really need in my collection now? I mean, and
Well, yeah,
if you can handle keeping it going, fine. But I mean, I think realistically, most people have to start to part ways. But
well, it's kind of like you said, like that's your own personal library. You know, that's your own that's your own personal, curation of films that you want in your collection. That's in your library essentially.
Yeah, and if I don't sell it to somebody, for instance, if I go into some of my like Blu-ray stuff here that I value at the highest, like and say I want to get rid of something, if I don't sell it to somebody, I could just donate it to the library, and then it would be there if I really wanted to go rent it or something, or it'd still be there. It'd be nearby, but it would just not be in my house anymore.
Can you imagine donating like a limited Vinegar Syndrome slipcase or something, and they put all that library markings on it? The aneurysm that people in some of these Facebook groups would have over that. Oh my goodness.
Well, what I could do for so that nobody has aneurysms, I could take the because I think the library, at least the one that's near me, they don't even keep everything in cases. They they put them on sleeves, and then they it's not they don't care about they'll probably toss the case if I don't hold on to it.
It's a horror story.
I know it's a horror story. So if I keep the limited edition stuff and maybe try to sell it to somebody for a really cheap price, I won't gouge somebody. I won't. You got $50 for this slipcover. No, I'm not going to do that. But
there are some people who
$10 or something.
I've seen people pay $50 for a slipcover, or $100 for a slipcover. I've seen people sell them on eBay for that pricing, and I'm like,
I'm a
slipcover enthusiast, but not this hard. Not this.
It's not cool. It's not cool to do that. I don't think that's cool to do that.
Well, it's kind of like I mean, the scalpers, really, the people who know that a limited edition is coming out at a specific store, and they'll go and they'll buy every copy and they'll put it on eBay the minute they get it. And
that's more what I have a problem with is intentionally lowering the stock and then artificially inflating the price and stealing it from people who want it, essentially. But I don't know, maybe I'm the asshole here, but I feel like if I find a good deal somewhere and I either already have it or I don't want it, and I sell it for what it's worth, I don't know. Maybe that does make me kind of a scalper, and I shouldn't be doing that.
No, I think you can, but that's more devious. You know what I mean? Like you're like those people are like rigging the market. You're just trying to make flip something, like people who flip houses.
Trying to flip something,
yeah. I mean, people who flip whatever.
You got to have some. You got to be smart. You got to have some strategy.
Yeah.
You're.
I mean, look, it's all going back into other ones. It's
very true.
It's all just buying more stuff to keep
it's going right. You're just putting it's going right back into the business. So
easy come, easy go.
The thing is, it is a business because that's what you talk about on your channel. You're watching your movies and you're talking about them. It's your business. So so definitely, keep doing that. And so, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I didn't have anywhere I was going other than maybe it's time to talk Blu-rays. But
I just maybe a little bit more about Celeste's background, if you will, just when it comes to you did hint at going to college and becoming more analytical and all that kind of stuff. And I know we've talked about before how you have a political science degree and how that has really informed you when it comes to your ability to analyze all these movies, because like we said many times in many places, art is political. Movies, music, television, art in
Mhm.
general is all politically based, or at least sending a message in a
Yeah.
specific way. So has that really kind of, kind of informed you into kind of doing a lot of the analysis you do now when it comes to movies?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I went to school for political science because at the time I was super passionate. I mean, I still am, but at the time I was just getting into politics and really sort of understanding everything. And I just got to a point where I was like, I want to really, really learn this. And I originally wanted to make a YouTube channel just talking about politics, and I just never did. And then eventually I got super heavy into films. And I just found that I was applying that kind of analytical framework about the world into these films, which are really just microcosms or samples of one person's perspective on the world, um, taking that kind of analytical mindset to art. And I was finding that me and my girlfriend, we were watching films and having really interesting discussions about them. And I was like, hey, I think there's something here. Like, I think I could do this, you know? Um, and so, yeah, I think, like you said, I do really believe that every film is political in some way or another because even if it's not intentional, it is in reaction to the world around it and in the time and place that it exists. And I think that the messaging is always there, even if it's not necessarily overt. I kind of make a challenge to myself after every film. I ask myself, like, what did that mean? What was the message, or what was the question that the filmmaker or the writer or whoever was trying to get across? And I think even in these like schlocky vinegar syndrome titles or whatever, like there's always something there if you try hard enough to find it. Yeah, I don't know. Shit, I thought I was going somewhere with that.
No, you're
uh,
good. No, yeah, and I think inherently, everybody, every filmmaker, every person that's involved in making films are always trying to, influence people. It's all to see a
mhm.
certain perspective, to see a certain point of view of the world, and
Yeah,
that's where it is. I mean, political doesn't have to just mean the main topics that we like to talk about in politics all the
yeah, for
time,
sure. Mhm.
about money, about taxes, about things like that are kind of like it could be anything, anything that
Yeah,
has to do with our life, our lifestyles, and our the
Just
way we live
society.
our yeah, the
Yeah.
way
yeah, for sure.
society is and how we live our everyday lives is all politicized, in some
Yeah,
way.
I definitely don't mean to say that every film ever made is making specific like policy prescriptions or something like that. Like
Mm.
I
Exactly.
do
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that it is informed by and in reaction to and saying something about the politics of the time and whether or not, it's kind of like saying like, well, apolitical is still political. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the intentional avoidance of these issues is still making a statement of some kind. Um, and I guess to bring it back to earlier in our discussion, I guess what I try to do by analyzing it from that way, I mean, it's the way that makes the most sense to me, and it's what I find the most interesting and what I feel I have the most expertise in to talk about. Um, but I think that it does kind of give you a gateway into thinking of films as uh, texts, like a work of literature or something like that, to actually be thoughtfully discussed and analyzed. And again, I don't really want to like besmirch or talk down to somebody who really approaches films as entertainment or spectacle or escapism, because I totally understand and see the necessary part that plays in people's lives. But I guess for those who are interested, I wanted to provide a space to encourage people to think about them a little bit more deeply than that, and to really take a critical eye and a new lens of analysis to the films that they watch. I was kind of reading this article I think the New York Times did talking about how like these quote unquote prestige dramas are just not faring well. Like there's just not really a market for them anymore because people really only want things that they can already associate with associated IPs, or like something that can be entertaining and they can escape. Like I think part of the analysis that was like, I don't know. It seems that the movie going public right now just doesn't want to be confronted or reminded about all the bleak things that are happening in the real world. Like they want an escape from that. Whereas I see the value in that, but I also find it really valuable to see somebody's voice about those things that we're all going through, and to kind of use that as a vehicle for exploring that emotionally and intellectually, and hopefully coming to some kind of resolution or catharsis about that, you know?
Yeah. No, completely agree. And a lot of times, the thing that sucks about our society a lot of times is isn't even just about confronting anything. It's about the way society's set up. It just doesn't leave a lot people a lot of time.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
we
Yeah.
have our jobs, and we have our kids, and our just our situations that keep us from wanting to do any more than what we have to do. We want to come home and we want to just relax, and we want to turn our minds off. And that's how some people are. They don't they go through they have a hard day, and they don't want to try that hard watching a movie.
Yeah.
They
I
don't want to
mean,
they don't want to exercise their brains like that.
yeah,
So
I totally also do recognize that what I'm describing and what I'm doing inherently comes from a place of privilege, where, like, to do this comes from a source of education or the time and the mental energy to actually devote to this. I am fully cognizant and understand that for
oh
a
yeah.
lot of people, that's just not a priority. And I totally understand that. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
I
we
get
agree.
it.
We
Like, I
agree.
don't, and I mean, you were talking earlier about how you wish you had more time to get into the depths of things that I do. And it's like, well, you guys are covering like 50 films every week or something like that, you know? And also, like, I have like two partners and three cats and a job. Like, I have
Mm.
emotional obligations and time and stuff, but I don't have any kids, and you do. And that, I think, is the biggest one that ends up occupying
Yeah.
people's intellectual and emotional time and space. So
Yeah,
I totally understand that,
life is kind of hard enough to get through on a day-to-day
It really
basis
is.
without adding more things to it. For
It's a lot.
Yeah, what the
everybody,
hell was I thinking?
yeah,
What was I thinking?
yeah, everybody's life is different, and life is kind of, relative depending on your situation. But it's kind of a bit of a win every day in life just to make it to the next day,
Yeah.
Mhm,
especially now. I think a
mhm.
lot of people need
Yeah.
to realize that that's big enough of an accomplishment, um, just to get through life in general.
I want to co-sign that for sure, because I think people are really, I think this kind of hustle culture, or this kind of bootstraps kind of capitalist ethos that we've all been raised into, is kind of
Oh, it's a
ties your
lie.
worth to productivity. And I
Yeah.
Yeah.
really think that it's time, it's really valuable to encourage people to kind of separate those two things
Mm.
and understand that as long as you're making it, that is an accomplishment in and of itself, even if you didn't do anything, or if you didn't, I don't know, you didn't work hard
Yeah.
enough, or you didn't
We have to
pursue this
start.
creative thing on top of
Yeah.
that. It's just so
We have
much
to stop
expectation placed
assigning.
on people.
We have to stop assigning value to certain things in life, whether it be whether you worked a 40-hour week or not. Your life is still worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like it's still
Hmm.
like you it's still worth something. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just because it's different than others doesn't mean it's worth
Hmm.
less than theirs. We've got to,
Yeah.
move through that. I think we're having a lot of those discussions now.
Yeah.
Finally, we're having a lot more discussions about a lot of different things now. Whether
Yeah.
any
It's good.
progressive
It's good.
progression happens is remains to be seen.
I,
Yeah.
I
I
will.
also,
Yeah.
oh no, go ahead.
Well, all I was gonna say was now, and this is no reflection on anybody else, but for me, part of and this wasn't the only reason I did this, but when I decided to marry my wife and have kids and things like that, one of the things that came into my mind was because I've lived my life through movies basically my whole life. I look at
Mhm.
you could almost say maybe my vision of life was distorted through film, and that's not healthy necessarily.
Mhm.
And so I looked at the things coming to me in my life as a way to expand my knowledge of what I
Yeah.
watch in films, because now I'm
Mm,
actually living some of the things that I watch in movies, and
yeah,
actually am able to
it was more relatable.
actually have firsthand
Yeah.
experience about some
Mhm.
of them things that I watch. So I think that even though I struggle watching movies now, I really value the life experience I get now, putting it on myself, even though I jokingly complain about it.
Mm.
Uh,
And you can
it's
see,
it's
eh,
valuable.
you can also see how a lot of movies kind of get those things right and maybe don't get those things right. In terms
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
like, oh, that's not really like that, or it is like that, or whatever the case may be. Granted, everything is, like I said, relative. I mean, like every time you see even like a sports movie, if you're a big sports fan and you watch a movie and you're like, yeah, that's absurd. That can never happen, or that's not the way it goes. You can, or you could say, yeah, that is actually the way it is, or yeah, oh no, it's not. So I can understand maybe life experiences kind of gives us knowledge, and knowledge gives us
Mhm.
relatability to more things,
Yeah,
and so never stop learning, people. Basically, that's what I'm
yeah, for
saying.
real.
Don't
I
cut
think
yourself off from learning.
Yeah, I think our relationship to the films that we watch, even the first time watches and the rewatches, are always expanding and adjusting according to our own increased life experiences.
Most definitely.
And I guess the one thing I want to make sure I say too before we move on to Blu-ray talk and everything is that, again, where I'm kind of this thing that I'm describing, I also understand that I've been very open about my struggles with mental illness and the various ways that that affects me and my capacity for productivity and everything like that. But I understand that for me, doing this, like watching films and analyzing them and writing all that down and articulating my thoughts on it, that is a therapeutic thing for me. That helps me a lot. Whereas I could understand that for someone else, that could be something that's really hard and really detrimental. And I don't want anybody to feel as though just because they're watching something and taking an entertainment angle to it or not, sitting down and thinking about the themes of it or whatever. I don't want people to feel like that they're failing in their film appreciation because of that either. You know what I mean?
No.
Oh
Again,
yeah.
I want to
Yeah,
make sure
that
that.
makes perfect sense. I've said that. I think I've said this many times here on the podcast. I think cinema, specifically films and movies and all that stuff, can be an endless amounts of things for many different
Mhm.
people. It can
Yeah.
be so much. That's kind of why I love it, because there's endless possibilities with it.
Mhm.
Um, but before we start, getting back to our philosophy classes, I think we should move on to talking about some movie releases.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and just before that, of course, I do want to. There was one thing I wanted to bring up is
Okay.
Celeste
Sure.
did a guest on another channel recently. Ryan, friend of ours, I'm doing, of course, Shelf Shock Rewind
Shelf
with
shock.
Ryan, and Celeste did guest on a recent video over there talking about mental, the mind. It was the video series is called The Mind in Movies, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, and or movies in the mind, and
Mhm.
Celeste was in one. There was 3 different videos. You had Celeste on one, you had Kat Ellinger on another, and then I think it's Heather
Heather.
Drain.
Yeah, that's it. Heather Train.
Yeah, yeah, Heather Drain on the other, and they're all different, talking about different aspects of how the mind, when it comes to collecting, or different thing. I believe Kat Ellinger, they talked a lot about their relationship with ADHD and things like that, and then
Neurodiversity. Yeah.
neurodiversity, how people's minds work differently.
Mm.
And I think they're really, really great conversations and are worth checking out. They're all on the Disconnected channel. They're all, I think, really important things to look into.
Of
So
course.
yeah,
Well,
I'd say I'd recommend that.
yeah, and,
Well, thank you. Yeah.
I brought it up here many times when it comes to mental health. It's We're way more open to talking about that now than we were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And
Mhm.
it's still progressive. You know what I mean? Everything is still progressing, hopefully in positive ways,
Yeah,
and people have avenues now to express that, whether it
Yeah.
be with social media, whether it be with friends, whether it be with strangers, therapy. I mean, there's still a lot of, hiccups and things when it comes to a lot of those things, but at least the floodgates have opened up a little bit, and it's not like the way it was 30, 40 years ago where people would kind of bottle this up inside and kind of implode in themselves. Even though that does still happen, but for movies have kind of been, I think, an open avenue discussing a lot of those things, as I'm sure you guys discussed in all of those videos and whatnot. Um, but
yeah.
yeah,
Celeste's particular video was about like the catharsis
mm,
of
oh
seeing
yeah,
certain types of drama in film,
Yeah.
and how that can be, though some people might react in negative ways, it can also be a positive thing,
oh yeah.
de-
You ever have it?
depending on how you look
I
at it.
Yeah. Have you ever cried while watching a movie? It's kind of a catharsis
Oh, do
thing to
you
do.
mean like how often do you mean?
Um, all of that. Yeah, I mean, very often for me.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
happens.
it
It
depends on
happens a
the
lot.
It's a
Yeah,
whole thing. It depends on the film. It depends on my mental state.
mm,
Actually, antidepressants kind of make it harder to cry, which is one thing I don't like about them. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's that. But yeah, thank you for highlighting that
Yeah.
conversation. That's one I'm really proud of, and I think it turned out really well. And um, yeah, I just hope people check it out because I hope it's helpful for people. But it's also
It
just
was
something I'm really proud of.
there
So.
honestly in I can't remember which conversation it was, but there was one thing Ryan said in one of them that related really hard to me about himself that I didn't realize. Um, but you know, this he said once that he had this sense of like um, needing to be alone.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like
Yeah.
he's like, I need time to where I'm just alone by myself, and I was like, I have that same feeling all the time. Like
Yeah.
I spent so much time alone in my especially in my 20s. I was very much an isolated person. I didn't, you know, I had friends, but you know, I wasn't. I was never a ladies' man. I never had a lot of
mm,
relationships. I never was with a lot of relationships through my life. I've only been with maybe a few different women, and like, you know, like I was alone a lot. So um, now that you know, as I joke, I'm never alone now. It's kind of a difficult thing because I got so used to being alone with my thoughts
right.
and
Mhm.
being able to entertain myself, and I was okay with that, you know, and that became something I was okay with. But now it's like gone, and it's like sometimes a struggle that I have a hard time with. Um, and
Yeah.
it's something I related to hard. So
Yeah, I mean, with that in particular, there's definitely extremes that we can go to on either end of that. But I think that there are people who are just kind of wired that way. And I would consider myself one of them where we need an amount of time to process our feelings and our thoughts and just the world around us
yeah,
alone and just have that time. It's kind of hard to articulate, I guess, to people who aren't like that. But
Right.
yeah,
it's not
Yeah,
like I want to be
it's
alone all the
tough.
time, but there's definitely
Yeah, it's very
pockets of
tough.
time where I'm just like I need some space and I need some time to myself. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
It's very
yeah,
hard.
I don't.
The more people that I met who are dealing with some type of mental illness, where regardless of what it is, it's tough for it's tough for them, and tough for us to explain our mental illness issues to other people and to make it seem, like to make them understand. It's really tough because it's something that's uniquely our own, and we can't
Mhm,
really express it fully to other people because they're not living in our skin, living in our minds, living in our moments. And,
mhm,
it's really tough to kind of express all of those things. And, I'm an introvert at heart, hence why, I don't talk to very many people other than Steven, and why I talk so much on the podcast because I don't talk to most other people about these things in normal everyday life. A lot of the thing, and you're talking about kind of like the whole wanting to be alone with yourself, with your thoughts. Hence why I watch all of my movies past midnight. No one bothers you then, and no one. There's like I always tell people this. There's something very unique being completely alone and in the dark at 3 a.m. watching a movie by yourself. I did it last
um,
night when I was watching Moon Age Dream, um, the David Bowie documentary,
David
which we'll
Bowie
talk
one, yeah.
about probably later on here. And
Mhm.
it's a unique experience being alone with yourself. Some people can't be alone with
Yeah,
themselves, and that's another form of kind of
I
mental
yeah, for
illness.
sure. I kind of meet in the middle on those things because I live with my girlfriend and we probably watch a film together every night, and I really value that experience and kind of having someone to bounce off my interpretations and our ideas about the film and everything. But then it's not as much lately because I don't work from home anymore, which fucking sucks. But
ah,
like,
Mm,
so I have to get up about the same time she does. But I'm still just a night owl person. I have that in me where I'm like, no, I will not go to bed yet. It's like and I think it's because of what you're describing. I really value that kind of last couple hours in the 10 to 2 a.m. type range where
yeah.
everyone else, relative to me, has gone to bed, and I just have some time to decompress and watch something on my own or otherwise process what happened that day or something like that. So it's usually like my ideal is to have two films, one with her and one by myself.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
Speaking
great.
of films,
That's great. Let's do it. Let's transition
Let's do
to. Thanks, Celeste, for sharing all that with us. Of course,
Yeah,
in the
I've
middle here,
held you guys for an hour. It's
Mm.
I almost feel bad, but yeah,
no,
we
this
can
is about the
move
time
along.
I'd say most guests we try to
most
keep it about an hour.
interviews
Yeah.
go for about this time.
Yeah. So, but I would just want to say in the middle here, you just everybody, please go over to Celeste's channel, subscribe, check out some of her stuff. Please, I'm telling you, you're not going to regret it. She's really good at just find something on there that maybe you like. You know, she doesn't just look at Criterion movies. She's looked at
Mhm.
some more recent films. One of the ones that gets brought up a lot, I hear, is the Barbarian analysis.
Yeah, I'm really
one of
proud
a
of that
recent
one.
film.
I did get to watch your analysis on The Menu as well.
Oh, good. That's
which
the
is
most recent one I did. If you
the
don't
most
mind me
recent
asking,
one.
what did you think?
Fascinating insight into kind of the murkiness of that movie.
Mhm.
I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's interested in still seeing it at this point. But it's a movie that surprised me in its pursuit of being more than kind of like a surface level type film,
Mhm.
but it's also kind of its message isn't quite clear, and you kind of portray
Mhm.
why it's not quite clear, specifically its
Yeah.
political message.
Yeah.
And part of me makes that movie a little more fascinating because of its like unclear message. It almost makes it up
Yeah.
to us that it's playing with us as audience members, which is kind of
Mhm.
like an old
Yeah.
Hitchcockian thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dug it. Definitely could tell your political science background in it. You started
Well,
bringing
thank
out the
you.
political jargon, and I was like, yeah, this person knows politics.
But that's
But
great. That's great.
yeah, so